Hello, friend, or acquaintance, or just viewer. This is another episode of the J Speak hit series Top Secret. And this will be, let's just make this episode 23. So it won't be a long one. Okay, there's only a couple of things. The first big thing is that we have a space today, a no BS Radix research space. You see, on the platform Twitter, now known as X, I run a space, and I titled it, funny enough, No BS Radix Research. And that's because it's not like there was BS Radix research beforehand. It's not like that's what prompted me to do it. I just felt like there was a lot of BS research in general. And I'll be honest, when I got into Radix, I didn't find too much BS research. Okay. There was a lot of great research. I was listening to a space today with Lucas and Radix Wiki. And I'll tell you this, both of those cats, man, they really helped me in my journey of understanding Radix. You see, because there's certain things that I think the devs that kind of tipped me off to Radix were unaware of, just like the things that I might be interested in as a user, for example, right? So I'm just looking for the last week's stats here because I guess it would be January 19th, right? Yeah. All right, so let me look at these. Okay, so what do we got? I'm just gonna pull these up side by side so we can kind of track them. So we can kind of, it's kind of just like, what do you track? Sometimes you track, if you want to get in shape, you join the track team. Sometimes you track some kind of animal, if you're a hunter. Sometimes you track your accounting. You track how many subscriptions you have on your credit card. What do you track? Maybe you track how many Dunkin' Donuts you get per week. And you sort of try to do that sometimes to get clarity around the data. So that's all we're doing, the same thing that you're doing with all that other stuff. Now, this data is presented to you by Radix Charts. And let me just pull it up. Take the jacket off for this data, just so we can really dig in to what is going on here. What the heck's going on? It's a little chilly in my room right now, so if you, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna turn the heat on and kind of do this in the middle of the show, just for the fact of keeping it real. Sometimes when you keep things real, you can, I made a meme coin video and it was kind of a little bit feisty, and some of the things I kind of regret saying, but they had to be said, so I said them. And it's not even like I'm trying to judge people or make someone feel bad. It's just, look, man, I don't know how people will interpret that meme coin video, Top Secret episode 22. But what I do know is this. There will be enough people that meme coin video will probably, in the long run, help more than hurt. Even if somebody is so chilly, I'm getting chilly. Even if somebody is so, I guess, just kind of like meme coined out of their minds right now, if they got meme coin on the mind, they got meme coin on the mind, they got meme coin on the brain. Well, maybe that video, they won't like it, but they see it and they think about it, and maybe it changes their whole trajectory forever. And I think there's a lot of power to being a content creator. So I always try to like balance things out. And I think people that follow my content over time really get a good, well-rounded perspective and see that I'm trying to not only offer a well-rounded perspective, but develop one myself. So, it's just, and they get a good, well-rounded perspective of how I think about things too. But anyways, that's enough about all that. Today, we don't have meme coins on the mind. We got this cold winter day on the mind, man. It's actually not that cold. It's just rainy. But that rain, it's the type of rain that's a cold rain. Do you know what I mean? You ever have like a cold rain, you know? Cold rains are like tough because I can't even get any natural sunlight. I can only get wet. You can only really get wet and cold in a cold rain. So it's kind of a tough one. Oh yeah, and we have Stabilis, which I'll bring up today too. I don't know, man. I heard Dan Hughes is not feeling well. Dan, I hope you feel better. It's kind of interesting. Um, People are getting sick, I've seen recently. Stay healthy. Okay. So the J Speak special. And I have had some time, I don't know, like the last couple of days, some extra time. So what I decided to do was stay up last night just to wait out the space. And I did do that. I got some work done. Retweeted a bunch of stuff for Catalyst. It's interesting when you look at Radix, which has RDX Words giving out grants, you know? Whereas in Cardano, they have a decentralized grant program, and this fund is going to be, I think, 50 million ADA. That's what they're giving out, which is a lot of, a good amount of ADA, right? Or I don't even know. It might be even more than that. So we'll see. But nonetheless, Nelly, you are GOAT status once again. Nelly is GOAT status. I'm honored and privileged to have this data week to week, and no pressure to Nelly to do this, but we will use it to the fullest if if she continues to do it. We will utilize it out of respect for Nelly and out of respect for Radix charts. I've liked Radix charts since the get. I thought Radix charts was one of these sort of gems. When you see different ecosystems evolve, you kind of like spot the different archetypes or the different demographics, right? And you see like what attracts each one. So going back to that top secret episode 22 where some of that stuff was just, no, it was bravado. Okay, if people like meme coins, I really don't care. And I said that in that video. It's fine. I'm not judging anybody. But, meme coins can attract certain people, and certain people get attracted from different aspects of the technology or different properties the technology has in its architecture. And I think for me, I'm just asking a lot of questions about Radix right now because I'm really close to feeling like going like deeper into Radix, spending more energy on Radix. And I already think it's a gem or a diamond in the rough. I just think it needs to be battle tested and proven, you know? So I do think it's a diamond in the rough. It needs to be polished. It needs to be battle tested. But right now, it's just freaking in the ground, man. It's just still coal being pressurized into diamond, and people haven't discovered it yet. I've noticed, but if they dig deep enough, they'll see why they'll see that there's a diamond down there. If they go down the rabbit hole of blockchain and crypto, I think deep enough, and you know, they're going to go down into the ground deep enough and see that there's like a diamond forming down there. So, I don't know. The reason why I think I'm asking so many questions is because I'm actually like, I'm running out of questions to ask sometimes. And I forget more than I talk about. So, don't get me wrong. There's stuff I need to re-go over that I've already talked about and kind of have forgotten. And I do have a channel for the No BS Radix research space. I was going to try to post every single Twitter space to that channel, but it just was too hard. It was just like with the resources that I currently have, it would probably burn me out, you know. And it was also sort of like the way I like to build things is kind of like this, if I can sort of put the goalpost of getting that channel up and running by the middle of this year or towards the end of this year, it gives me a lot more time to figure out what I want to do and how I want to do it. And that's kind of how I build things in general, you know? But up front, there needs to be a couple of preliminary things that I do too, which involves doing tons of research so I know what the heck is going on and what I'm talking about, forming connections, forming intel connections, finding researchers that are dependable, finding who does what in the industry and who's dependable with their intel. And, that stuff all takes time, man. So I'm not one of these people that freaks out about stuff because Rome wasn't built in the day, ladies and gentlemen. Rome was not built in a day. And I'm not even thinking about the Roman Empire as much as people say everybody's thinking about it, right? Everybody says, oh, are you thinking about it? I'm like, dude, I haven't thought about the Roman Empire in a while, bro. In a while. What was it? Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. Obviously, there's some stories I heard back in the day. I guess they were doing some stuff. What else? The Roman Empire. I think 300. That's Spartans. There's also what was it? The horse. They hit a bunch of I think aliens or humans in. Sorry. And they kind of just surprised them. I don't know. Besides that, and then there's the Netflix stuff, which is probably the real reason why that question exists in 2023 and 2024. All right. What were we talking about? I think we were going to go over this. We do this week to week to track insights and data, tracking it. Open invite to let us know. So last week we did discover an insight. Last week's insight was simply the thing I thought would be a correlation week to week. Is this the right one? Yeah. So I thought there was going to be a correlation between user transactions and XRD burned fees week to week, where we would see both increase or decrease or go the same way each week. But that's not true. And I'll tell you why it's not. It ended up not being true because, excuse me, I just had to burp. I had a sparkling water. So sometimes you just gotta burp. I'm sorry. It's just how it goes. And Yeah, man. I think like components are really interesting because when you use a lot of components in a transaction on Radix, it increases the fee. So you could actually have less transactions, but more fees, which is the case because as you look here in the previous week, you have sort of like, okay, user transactions and XRD burned fees both were up from the past week because every time that there's a transaction, there's a fee. So you would think they're correlated. 50% of that of each fee gets burnt. So you would think that the XRD burnt fees in the transaction would be correlated. But if transactions have more components in them and they're more complex, then the ecosystem's growing and developing, and it's creating an environment where users can experience more complex transactions, fit more into a transaction, have more processes in a transaction that increases the fee, and then they don't have to do extra transactions. They just do one. And that is exactly why we saw that. You see? Less transactions, more burn fees because of more complex transactions as far as we can tell. As far as the no BS Radix researchers could tell. Okay? So, excuse me. Let's look at this week's data compared to last week's. Okay, user transactions are down, but there's more burn fees again. So I think that's the same. And there's even more burn fees. So I think dApp developers are I think the most likely conclusion, and any no BS Radix researcher, please prove me wrong here, is that essentially, folks, right? You're getting more bang for your buck. Yeah, right? Well, you're paying higher fees because your transactions are actually doing more. And because of that, you don't have to do extra transactions, so you're not wasting time and you can do more creative, magical things. You know, it's like really being able to, I don't know, kind of like walk and chew gum and then jump all in the same transaction. You know what I mean? So let's look at the other stats. XRD in total stake is up from last week. So that's net positive, up 16 million. But you can see that the arrow isn't pointing as up as it was in the week before where we had 40 million. So that's kind of funny, Nelly. I didn't notice that till now. And then you have smart contracts. You have 347 smart contracts created, going sideways, 353 from last week. Then you have 1,695 new accounts created, which is up. 750 new accounts created, which is kind of lower than the week before last, where you had 800. So all in all, this week's new accounts created was pretty large. And then you have so now I guess I understand why Nelly said here, looking good. That is looking good, eh? It's also good to see a double week in XRD total stake going up, you know, instead of that negative we saw, I think 2 weeks ago when the Bitcoin ETF dropped. I think a lot of people were shifting portfolio theory. I saw a bunch of accounts saying that they dumped their XRD holdings, you know, to shift around a bit, which I get. Again, XRD and Radix itself still is this thing that you have to look really deep into the ground to find, first off, and it's slowly rising to the surface as we get infinite linear scalability, for example, working and running and showcased. I think that will propel that diamond up to the top of the soil. Other things too, man. You know, there's a lot of other things going on, right? I know I talk about infinite linear scalability sometimes as like the core end all be all, but you got to understand, I just mean that with like a grain of salt. I mean that strongly, but with a grain of salt. Okay. 7,735 active accounts. So we're up. Looks like we're up. 5,540. What was the previous week? Yeah, so that's a lot of active accounts. I mean, maybe it's some of those new accounts created, and it's good to see that because you could always say the argument, oh, well, anybody could create an active account, doesn't mean that stuff is actually happening. And you could also say, oh, yeah, new accounts. But what you need to look at is, are the other metrics positive? Because if XRD and total stake is looking positive, that's a net good thing. And then if XRD burn fees goes up, even if user transactions goes down, this means, again, that complex transactions are happening. So more fees are actually being charged. And therefore, 50% of each fee is being burnt. So there's actually more usage on the network as far as I can tell. Tell me if I'm wrong. So let's see what else. Stabilis. So yeah, Nelly, thank you so much. Radix charts, check Radix charts out if you're looking for a validator. Radix charts is a validator. So I will say that I will vouch for Radix charts as a validator because they've been so helpful and we appreciate them. Do your own research, of course. I'm always going to say that with, even if it's Mother Teresa, okay? Even if it's Mother frickin' Teresa, I'm going to say do your own research, okay? But we really appreciate Radix charts, and Nelly is GOAT status. So give Nelly a follow, give Radix charts a follow. Stabilis came out. I followed Octopus XRD, and then I was looking at this, and it's kind of interesting thing. It looks like you can take XRD and create some collateralized coin called Stab. Now, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a stable. It says they're, you know, little teasy stable coin actions. So, I mean, if it's a stable coin and they have a flexible collateral ratio, then I wonder if that brings about this whole new conversation of like, okay, are there different stab coins that will have different collateral ratios? And that shows obviously in the metadata, because that creates a really dynamic effect in automatic market makers. Or like if you want to buy a stab coin, you know? So it is interesting, but I don't really know much about it. So I'm interested. And stealth mode developing is always one of those things that I'm a big fan of, to be honest, because they're not marketing, they're not saying that they're gonna do this big thing. The only thing is it gets you by surprise, so you gotta now spend time in the market looking at them, seeing if they follow through. And then Black Sheep commented on the thing for micro proofs around how sharding is different on Radix than other DLTs, which I agree with. I just don't know if it mitigates micro proofs point there around incentives for validators. So I don't know. I'd like to flush that out. So we'll probably bring that up. And that will be it for this top secret. Okay, it's really Radix focused. There's a couple of little funny bits. There's some stuff on meme coin, sure, but really just wanted to say thank you. And feel free to tune into this space if you guys want, you know, and you girls want, and you researchers want. And just thank you. You know, it's Friday. I hope you have a great weekend. And thank you so much. And it's gonna be a freaking great day. It's gonna be a great day. You know, we'll make it one. That's Top Secret episode 23. 23. Shout out to Michael Jordan, I guess. You know, 23. What else has 23? I don't know what else is. Maybe is the United Nations? I don't know. The EU, it's your 23. there might be 23 types of bees in a certain country, different species of bees. So, everything that I told you here, please just remember one thing, folks. Keep top secret.